Welcome to the Breaking the Cycle 2021 conference, where we have come together to share evidence-based methodologies and interventions in working with hardest to reach vulnerable children and families. Today is day one of a two-day conference, and this is our third webinar of the day. My name is Sherman Moladina, and I work with Railway Children Africa as Programs, Training, and Practice Development Advisor. Just some housekeeping first. Your video and your sound are turned off in the audience, but you are able to communicate and comment and ask questions through two functions. You can put your comments in the chat box and questions in the Q&A box, which are at the bottom of your Zoom bar. We also have interpretation from English to Kiswahili for this webinar. So if you would prefer to listen in Kiswahili, feel free to go to the globe at the bottom where the translation button is, and you can pick the Kiswahili channel in order to hear everything that we're saying in Kiswahili. Both of these presentations are going to be in English, and the topic of our focus in this webinar is unlocking the potential of street-connected children and young people, starting from the streets. And I think we've all recognized in our work and in years of working with street-connected children and youth, is that if we are to break cycles of intergenerational violence, we need to start from where children and young people are, on the streets. You will see from our presenters today that street work is an important intervention that needs human and financial resources and requires tools to support the staff to carry out their work effectively. So without further ado, I would like to present to you our two presenters today, who are extremely experienced in this field of work. So our first presentation will be delivered by Mary Mushi, who is Training and Practice Development Officer at Railway Children Africa. She holds a bachelor's degree in counseling psychology and has over 6 years experience working therapeutically with children, caregivers, and families. She's also an accredited VIG practitioner and a trainer of trainers in the ACT Raising Safe Kids program. The second presentation will be by Sander, I hope I say this right, Degeling. Since 2015, Sander is the coordinator for all street smart projects in Africa and Asia, and he has worked with local street work teams in over 15 countries and is responsible for the follow-up and coaching of local organizations working with the mobile schools. He will be sharing with us an incredible tool that they've created called Street Smart that can potentially be something you might want to consider in your work with hardest to reach children and youth. So welcome, Mary, and I hope you'll all enjoy this webinar.
Hi everyone, as I've been introduced, my name is Mary and I'll be sharing the experience of working with children and youth on the street from here at Railway Children, but through our partners. So before we go further, I prepared a short video that will show you a little bit of experiences the children and the youth they go through on the streets. So here is a video.
City life, full of hustling and bustle. Every day, thousands commute to the city center in the early morning hours, each one with a goal to achieve for the day. As the day winds up to an end, the streets are left cold and bare. However, a closer look reveals the dark side of the town. The streets are turned into homes and living quarters for one of the most vulnerable groups in the society. It is not the best place they could live in, but out of desperation, they make do. This is Tanzania.
Maisha mtaani ni mabaya, sio mazuri.
Mtaani ni kugumu.
Yanakufanya ni uonekane, yani wewe kama ni takataka.
Sipendi kukaa mtaani.
So I hope the video have given you a little bit of a picture of what the street life situation is for the children and the youth. So I would, on the street, we have mainly two categories of children and the youth. So we have those part-time and full-time. So the full-time children and youth are disengaged from their families, so they spend their day on the street and they also sleep on the streets. And we have part-time who come on the street during the day, they do baking or collecting bottles, selling them, and later go to their families. But we also meet and come into contact with some children and the youth who live with someone that is unrelated. Most of the time could be a good Samaritan or could be someone that they're working with. They are working for, sorry. So there are different reasons as to why children come to the street, but as an organization, we have learned abuse and neglect is one of the reasons, but we have family conflict and separation, poverty, especially from rural and village areas, alcoholism and drug abuse, most especially leading to child neglect, as well as mental illness. And some children come to the cities out of curiosity and in search of a better life. So as organization, then how do we respond to the needs of the children and the youth on the street is through our street outreach program, which is looking to interview their urgents, restore their hope for the future, but also provide placement. This could be temporary shelters or could be through fit persons. And we also continue to provide services that would foster positive coping strategies. So again, I would say that our street outreach is the entry point where we have street workers on the street who are there as trusted and respectable adults to the children and the youth. So the street workers then do identification and they build trust with these children, understand their needs, provide protection and ensure access of services to these children and the youth. So street work or street intervention, it's an intervention by itself. We are guided by the principles that our services and all that we do is well coordinated and comprehensive, and we ensure that it's personal centered, look at the best interest of the child, but it's also trauma informed, cultural responsive, but it's also looking at emphasizing safety and reduction of harm for these children and the youth. There are different services that are provided at the street level, but they look into holistic need of the children. So it could be starting from physical, emotional, and social needs of the children. The session are pre-planned and they're provided in a consistent manner in terms of day, time, and location. And for the street workers to be able to know where and how to be on the streets, then they do mapping to find out where the street connected children are being found. So it's very important to know where the children are being found and at which time, so that to be able to provide the services. So then we would like to take you through a little bit of our case management processes, and our case management processes ensure time and appropriate services are provided to these youth and children in order to address the reasons that brought them to the street. But the services are provided directly with our street outreach workers, and these are services that we can offer directly as an organization. But for those that we cannot offer, we do referrals and linkages to other service providers. So mapping out service providers in the areas that you're located is very key. But we address the issues of the children holistically, not only looking at the basic needs, but also looking at the emotional side. So in that case, trauma-focused services are very important because of the experiences the children and the youth have gone through of abuse and neglect most of the time. So we establish relationship with service providers and statutory authorities. So this could be social welfare department, police department, justice actors. So, and we do this in line to ensure there's coordinated service providers, and we do this as early as possible so that we don't cause further harm for the children. And we have created a network of champions that are close to the children or at the street environment. And this community champion are already trusted adults by the children on the street, and they're already supporting these children voluntarily. So what we as organization do is to formalize these processes and request them to do referrals in case of emergencies, or when a new child has arrived on the street, or when our street workers is not on the street. But we ensure the children and the youth that we enroll into our program, there's a case manager who is assigned, who then looks to respond on the individual needs of the child. So given COVID, we grateful as an organization, or in Tanzania, we were able to continue providing our services, but while taking COVID precaution measures. But we worked very closely with government to advocate, especially when there was a removal of children from the street, then to ensure this was done safely. And we established wash facilities in hotspot areas, like, for example, bus stand where children are. So we have had some challenges and some solutions that we have learned throughout. So given the experiences of abuse and neglect the children have gone through, they have challenging behavior. So it has been very vital in our case management to include addressing emotional and behavioral impact of trauma on children and the youth, as well as when we are working with their families, and also to teach them some coping strategies. Another challenge that we have had is that children, street-connected children are not specifically addressed in most policies. So as an organization, we look into coordinating services and programs that look to address the multidimensional needs of the street-connected children. The other challenges that we have is the difficulty of reaching and identify street-connected children as they are living outside their household and their mobile nature. So from the national case management processes, we had to adapt and come with a differentiated case management process that ensure identification and enrollment start with child on the streets. We have had some achievements, and for the 5 years, we have been able to enroll 5,290 children and youth. As you can see, the categories of male and female there. Yes, we have more male into the program, but deliberately with Champion, we made efforts to enroll more girls into our program. On the right side, you can see some what are the services that we extended to the children and the youth that we enrolled into our program, where we did reunification, as you can see the number of 1,765. We had 4,200 who were enrolled and supported with school support. This includes the reunified children, their siblings and dependents from the Youth Association, placement to fit person, and support to children and youth that were in conflict and also in contact with the law. So as an organization, we are looking into further learning and research, especially models to work with highly traumatized children who are in the street situation, because we have also learned for many of them, reunification or the youth association model has not been an option. So we are really keen into understanding and exploring of what kind of intervention can we have that would be fit for the children, for example, the age 13 and above that are in this situation. Also, we are trying to explore and learn more in terms of using different tools to capture data and services, as well as for case management at the street level. And we have somehow started to explore this with Street Smart. So my colleague who will be coming to present next will talk more about this. Thank you for listening.
Great, thank you very much, Mary, for this very informative presentation. And thanks again for allowing us a chance to introduce our products here at Street Smart. So my name is Sander, and I will talk to you a bit more about street outreach tools that we as an organization offer to local organizations working with street connected children on the streets. We've heard already from Mary and her experience at Railway Children Africa, how they do their outreach programs, what the challenges are, what the solutions are as well. For working with street connected youth. And we as an organization at Mobile School, we're a Belgian organization, we develop innovative educational tools that we offer to organizations worldwide. So in fact, as you can see on these slides, learning from and on the streets, that's our baseline, in fact, and we do this with two different brands. On the one hand, you see there is Street Smart, which I will talk about in a few minutes, and then if there's still some time left, I'll also mention a few more words about our business side of our company, Streetwise. But let us start with Street Smart, the side of our organization where we divide educational tools to local organizations. To start with, I want to share with you a video. It's a video on our work with the Mobile School. We've been working with these mobile schools over the past 20 years, but I can imagine a lot of people don't know exactly what it is. So I hope by with the following video, you will have a clear idea on how this tool looks like. So if all goes well, we can start the video now. There we go. So we saw the Mobile School in action. So the Mobile School, what is it? In fact, it's a blackboard on wheels we offer to local organizations. You can see it over there on the picture. It's a picture of a mobile school in Poland. So you see it's a 1.5 meter long box, and there's a telescopic system inside, so you can slide it open until you have a blackboard space of 6 meters in length, which you can use on the streets. Now, we call this Mobile School our hardware, but as you can see on the pictures, there are all kinds of colorful boards, educational materials that you can easily attach to the board to interact in a fun and educational way with the children. We have more than 300 of these educational games. They cover many different topics, from language to mathematics, over business, identity, health. Even now on COVID, we created new materials to act in a positive way with the kids that we meet on the streets. So we have in our network, we have 59 mobile schools in over 31 countries. And in a normal year, we reach around 68,000 contacts with street children every year. So here you see a map of the world. All the red dots are mobile school partners. And of course, you've heard from Mary. And in Mwanza, in Tanzania, they also worked with a mobile school already for multiple years. And you can see a picture of their work over here. Now, why is it important to work with a mobile school? All around the world, we see that there is an estimate of like 150 million street connected children. Now, we all witnessed in the past few months the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So getting accurate data at this moment is still very complicated, but it's sure that years of progress are lost because of the consequences that we see right now with COVID. And a lot of children, mostly the most vulnerable children, they didn't get access to any kind of education because they don't have the support nor the resources to get access to new ways of learnings. So with Mobile School, we really aim towards 3 main target groups. You can see them on the screen over here. On one hand side, we have kids living and working on the streets, also the target group Mary talked about in her presentation. We also work with children on the move, and also more in European context as well, with kids hanging around on the streets. Now, what's a bit the philosophy behind the Mobile School? Mary talked about street life as well and all the negative things we see on the streets. When we go out with our local partners, it's true we see all those negative sides of street life. You see the drug abuse, you see the lack of hygiene, lack of shelter, sometimes the criminality as well. So all these things exist, they are there. But on the other hand, we as an organization that deliberately focus as well on the positive things. These kids on the streets are also kids with a lot of potential, kids with a lot of talents. And it's crucial for us as street workers, as social workers, to acknowledge that even while they're on the streets, these talents are there. And we should tap into this talent, into this potential, to empower them and to allow them to start their personal journey of change. So there are always 2 sides of the story, right? And why we think it's important to go out with the Mobile School, to explain that, we always show the slide with this ladder. You know, what happens if you put a ladder on quicksand, you have no solid foundation. And if you want to build then a future, if you want to build sustainable change, there's a high chance that if you have no foundation, your ladder will fall down. So before we start any process of change with these kids, we need to build a solid foundation. We need to allow them to believe in themselves once again, believe that they can change the situation they are in at this moment. And we truly believe at Mobile School that this foundation to build on is self-esteem. So that's why we reach out with the Mobile School to offer success experiences to kids in a street environment. So our local partners, they take out this Mobile School with all of these educational games in order to say to those kids, look what you can do. You're very good at mathematics, you're very good at drawing. Look at what you can do. So these guys, they start to believe in their potential as well, and they start to grow from there. So I just want to give you some pictures as well from our Mobile Schools worldwide. This is a picture, for example, from the Mobile School in Kenya. You can see it, it's a Kiswahili language panel that we have over there on the Mobile School. We always talk about a school, but I think we need to realize that in a street context, you cannot organize formal schooling. So kids are free to come and to go and to choose what they want to do on the Mobile School. The entire approach is really focused on empowering these kids, creating a safe and at this point, they are most comfortable in the streets. So this is this is a picture of Nairobi. You see over there one of our local street educators, because we always partner up with these local organizations. They're doing one of our discussion panels, which is on sports and movement. The next slide here, you see it's also a great tool to have like a kind of a community role play, what they are doing over here. And our main goal is as well to challenge the perception. You know, in many different countries, the perception on these Street Connect children is still very negative. Now, if they constantly get that negative feedback, you can imagine what a devastating impact that has on their self-esteem. Now, with Mobile School, we really want to turn this around. We want to say to these kids, hey guys, you can really do something and use these talents. So over here in the picture as well, you see it's one of our Mobile Schools in Ethiopia. You see they're performing like kind of a TV show. The child you see in the puppetry theater, he's like doing a TV show. And the amazing thing as well is that you see that the perception of the community suddenly changes, because they see that these kids who are living and working on the streets can actually do a lot of things and they have talents. And this is a start of a growth process of these kids. And that's really what we want to do with this mobile school. So we will always have that positive approach towards the kids, towards the educators. So what do we do as an organization? We offer these mobile schools, we offer all those educational materials to the amazing local partner organizations that are doing the actual street work in many different parts of the world. We also offer these organizations training to get to know the methodology, to know how to use it and get the most impact of their interventions. We offer coaching, and we also provide a learning network to these organizations online where they can exchange experience and stuff. So we've been working with these mobile schools for already 20 years, but along the way, together with our partner organizations, we also noticed that there's still some challenges along the way, taking these mobile schools out and working with these young people. On the one hand, we saw a major challenge with preparation. You know, I talked about the more than 300 educational panels you can attach to the board. It's a time-consuming thing to prepare your session, to know which topics you need to cover with which target group. So it's time-consuming, and also, like, if you've been working with this mobile school for a long time, sometimes you need new content as well. Right now, the COVID pandemic hit the world. Then there's a high need for children to talk about the consequences, for example, of this pandemic. So this is like a challenge. We constantly need to find new methodologies, to create new content in order for it to stay relevant for the kids we meet on the streets. Listen very well to their needs and have more adapted materials. The other challenge we see is on the follow-up side. Mary already talked about it as well. Sometimes it's really complex to gather data on the streets as well, because these kids are mobile, they move from city to city, it's difficult to follow them, it's difficult to track their educational progress that they make. And the other challenge is as well, of course, we can measure how many kids we reach, but sometimes it's hard to really measure the quality of our interventions, of our street outreach interventions as well. So these are two major challenges we noticed in our work with partners over the years. So what we decided as an organization is we need to do more. We need to step up our support towards all these street educators by opening up our methodologies for all street workers and youth workers. And we should really try to tackle these two major challenges we saw on the preparation side and on the follow-up side. So that's why we did kind of a rebranding, and we now have a product offer that has been enlarged and with more tools that can support youth workers. So if you're a street worker, if you work for a local organization, you can work with one of these 4 tools. One of them is the Street Smarts Wheels. It's the mobile school I just talked to you about. And the other 3 are digital tools we developed over the past few years to better support our street workers. I will quickly present them to you. Feel free to just leave your questions in the chat whenever detail afterwards in the Q&A if there's time for it. So the first digital product I want to introduce to you today as a methodology to work with these kids is Street Smart Play. Street Smart Play is a free online platform where you can find a lot of our educational games online. You know, not all the organizations that contact us will have the resources or will have the ability to take that big mobile school, that big blackboard on wheels to the streets. We also got a lot of questions, for example, from teachers like, hey, can we use your materials? In the past, unfortunately, it was not possible for us as an organization to respond to that question. However, right now with Street Smart Play, you can find and download all the games of Mobile School online. So you just can make an account. There's even the possibility to download the PDF as well. So you can go to a local print shop, print the panel or the activity you want to do, and just take it with you whenever you do like a kind of a counseling session with some of the kids, or just an activity you organize. What's even better is that we not only push our games on this platform, we warmly invite everyone to share their own activities on this platform as well. We're right now invited by Railway Children in Africa. There is so much local knowledge. They are real experts in street work as well. So we also want other street workers to share their best activities with our global community. So we can really create like a kind of a database with activities from all over the world. There's an easy wizard which helps you in sharing your games. And what's even better in this context is that it's also available, it's also possible, to share games in Kiswahili. There's then an auto translate function built into the website. So whenever you are in Tanzania or Kenya and you prefer to share your game in Kiswahili, it's definitely possible. So if you have more questions on this, do not hesitate to contact me after the session. I just want to show you one of our panels we created recently on the COVID-19 pandemic. You see it's a big discussion panel, and kids are really encouraged to talk about what they see and what the impact is on their livelihood, because the mobile school and our education materials are really child-centered. We want to give the initiative back to the children, listen to them, and really identify their needs as well. It's a first tool to build trust, to build that connection with the kids. So that's why we create these kind of discussion panels where children can really talk about and initiate the discussion on what their needs are while they are on the street. So this is one of the products. We have the mobile school, we have our Street Smart Play platform. But then we talked about the challenges we faced with the follow-up, measuring the impact of the kids we reach on the streets. And that's why we developed another tool. We call it Street Smart Impact, and it's an app you can download on your phone, and it's combined with a web platform, and it allows you as a street educator to better keep track of the impact. So it's a data registration and case management app. It was launched in 2020, so it's still new, but we're right now offering it to organizations, not only here in Belgium, but also the organizations that are part of our global network of mobile schools. Unfortunately, I do not have the time to really connect my smartphone. It's just a limited scope within this session. However, I do want to share with you some of the screens of the Impact app, so that if you're interested or if your organization wants to try out this Impact app, please do not hesitate to contact me after the session. We are more than willing to give you more information or organize a demo to provide you with more details on how it works. Now, I just share with you some screens. It looks like this. You can create interventions. Imagine Mary and her team, they go to the street, they just make an intervention, they assign it to a specific location. You open that session, you can invite your colleagues to that session as well, and then you have your list of database with the kids you normally meet in that location. So you can easily select the kids who are part of that intervention, and immediately it syncs with the web platform as well. So you do not need to fill in any Excel file to do any administration anymore. All your data are immediately visible in your dashboard online. So you can create interventions. You can see it over here. You see there's a short screen recording as well. This is how it looks like in the app. You can create mobile school sessions in there, but also if you do a counseling session, a call, really there are a large variety of interventions you can make. And what's even better, and a question that we get quite often, is that you can also adapt or edit the backend of your app to the reality of your local organization. Of course, all of our organizations are doing different kinds of work, so it is possible to customize the app to the needs of your organization. So you see some other screens over here. You can add, you can even add activities. Imagine I go out with a mobile school and today I want to work on health or I want to work on sports. It's very easy as well to assign these activities to the session. I can add participants to them as well to see which kids are are interested in which topics. So you see over here in the screen recording as well, you select the kids that are part of this session, and you can even register anonymous participants as well. If you meet new children in the streets and you don't want to make a profile for them yet, or they have not given consent yet, you can just add some unregistered kids as well, so that you still keep track of the total amount of children that you reach during your work. So there's a quantitative component to keep track of the numbers in your app, but on the other side, there's also a qualitative component which allows you to track the mood of these kids over time, to keep track of their skills, to keep track of their social map, and to also set some goals together so that you and your colleagues can easily follow up some goals as well. So this app is also really designed with a vision and developed with a vision, like with always keeping in mind the empowerment processes of the kids and to better follow up on that process you go through with them. So if I then go to the next slide, so this is very briefly some explanation on the app. And then you have your web platform as well, which give you some dashboards, which give you some reports as well, where you can do the customization of your organization, where you can invite your colleagues to become part of your team. So in short, this is how it works, the combination of the web platform and the app. Now, why was it developed? In the past with our partners, we did like a lot of impact tracking through Excels. You see that they then take paper to the streets, they note down the names of the kids, then they come back in the office, they need to put it in an Excel file as well. For other stakeholders, they need to do some other administration, and it's really time consuming. So with development of this app, we really aim to make the kids part of their own growth process as well, and to limit the time spent on administration, because street workers, they need to spend time on the streets. That's where they get the energy from. That's where they make the most impact. So we want to have them on the streets as much time as possible, and to not have them spend too much time on the administrational backlog they need to do. So this is our second product, our Street Smart Impact app. You see some screens over here, but I want to move on with the final tool that we offer, and it's still in development, but the colleagues are already really excited of it, and that's our Street Smart Learn platform. Now, what is it? I already mentioned that we offer a lot of trainings to our street work partners, but we are still a small team. We're working with 10, 11 people over here in Belgium. We have some regional trainers as well, but sometimes it's not always possible to offer trainings to all the organizations that apply for it. So that's why we right now, and it probably will be launched in November, we will launch Street Smart Learn, and it's an online learning platform as well, where street educators, youth workers can take small courses and programs to boost their knowledge on specific topics. Once again, there will be a lot of content available on there for Mobile School. It's also our objective to partner with other experts around the world who want to share their content for youth workers and social workers as well on there. So our network can also follow courses from these experts. Mobile version, if for the app, so it will also be like a platform and then an app based. Street Smart Learn. So this is the product offer we offer to our partner organizations. So if you have interest in one of these products, please feel free to ask questions about it as well. But I talked in the beginning about our organization, Mobile Schools, that it consists of two different parts. I explained you some more about Street Smart right now with all the products. So the work we do with local NGOs all over the world, but there's also Streetwise. And we developed Streetwise, in fact, because we truly believe, we talked about the two sides of the medal, right? And that there are a lot of negative things on the streets, but during those 20 years on the streets, we saw kids do amazing things. We really saw some natural born leaders on the streets. And we truly believe that a lot of these kids, although they live and survive in very harsh circumstances, they do incredible things. They are incredibly talented as well. and they gain a lot of skills. And we truly believe that a lot of people can learn as well from these skills. So we identified 4 main street skills. You see them over here, which we use to inspire people in companies in Belgium and in Europe and around the world. Because we truly believe that these kids are also like the agility that they have, the creativity that they show, the positive focus that they have. These are really inspirational tools. So we use this, we got some academics in, we built corporate training around it, and we offer this to businesses to make their companies more streetwise. And of course, these companies pay us for the trainings that we offer to them, and all of the profits are reinvested again in our social projects with Street Smart. It's what we call our 360 impact model. You see it over here. With the mobile schools, we reach out, and with our Street Smart products, to street connected youth. These street connected youth are the inspiration for the content of Streetwise. With Streetwise, we go to companies all over the world to provide corporate training based on the strengths of the streets. And then with the revenues, with the profits we make, we can invest more in supporting more local organizations with our Street Smart tools, with our mobile school. So that's the business plan as well behind our social hybrid enterprise. And with that, I just want to wrap up. I want to make sure there's enough time for us to have a discussion with Sherman, with Mary, and allow all of you to ask all of your questions you might have. So once again, a big thank you for being part of this webinar, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from all of you very soon in the discussion or even afterwards.
Thank you. Wow, those were 2 brilliant presentations, and we've had a number of questions already come in. So I'm really glad that we have around 16, 17 minutes or so to at least hopefully address some of them, but hopefully all of them. I think that the one take home that I took from both those presentations is that children on the streets are actually children that have talent, children that have a lot to offer us, that have missed out and have been marginalized. And really it is through our services and our interventions that we can help bring out their talent, help them grow, and help them be productive citizens in society. And what both Mary's and Sander's presentations told us, that it's about working with them, starting from where they are, not pushing them, but rather seeking to understand what brought them to the streets and how we can address that if they allow us to. So I just wanted to now come to some of the questions that have come up. There's a few questions around mobile school. So I wonder if we start there, Sander, and you can perhaps help us answer the few that have come through. So one of the questions was, with the mobile school, does it involve formal education where school syllabuses are systematically followed, or what exactly is taught? And another question that I'd like to pose to you so you can answer together is, does the mobile school activities apply to people above 18 years old? Sander?
Yeah, thanks for the question. To be honest, the mobile school is not at all formal education. We do believe that it's not possible formal education on the streets, but for a lot of street connected children, a lot of them, they've never been to school. So for them, getting them from the streets immediately to formal education, that step is way, way too big. They will drop out very easily. So that's what we try to get with the mobile school as well. So our main objective is to really empower these kids, allowing them to reinforce their self-esteem, to raise that interest again in these, by playing these educational games. So we believe formal education is the next step. We build trust on the streets. We allow children to see like, hey, I can do something. I do have some talents. And then if a child has interest in going to formal education, that can be a goal to work towards in the future. And to answer the question about the games of mobile school above kids from 18 years old, it's definitely possible. We do have, for example, some games, we call it our street business toolkit, and it's a little bit like the MBA of the streets. All the kids that are working on the streets, they can be empowered by these panels as well. So we often call our mobile school, it's like kind of a magic box, but we do need magicians. We do need dedicated street outreach workers who are doing amazing things. And a lot of our street workers, they come up with some activities themselves, or if they work with a target group above 18 years old, they will select some of the activities that are relevant to that target group. So we really, at the mobile school, depending from project to project, we see kids of 1, 2 years old, but we also see some adults coming to the mobile school to gain some skills. So it's like a wide variety of things you can do with the tool.
Okay, well, thank you, Sander. That's helpful to know. So, Mary, this next question actually links quite well, and I'd like to pose it to you. How do you handle children or adults, we would say, 18 years and above? What is the best practice that we can employ?
So with adults that are 18 and above, we have our youth association model. I hope some more people will join the webinar tomorrow, but it's one of the models that is designed for street connected youth. And it also starts again from first understanding what their needs are, supporting them to change some of the behavior that they have, but also capacitating them and empowering them given their needs. So that is one of the ways that we work with them. So, and if the group association or the group format is not really a response to them, then we look into addressing the individual youth and look to see how we support them to be self-reliant.
Thank you, Mary. That's great. So this actually also, again, links quite well to the next question that maybe we'll hear your thoughts on, Mary. What are the common challenges that you face when dealing with street children with mental illness? And how do you integrate them with their families?
So there are some challenges, especially you expect to work with them for a longer period of time. So because it depends, first of all, with the level of the severity of the issue. So there are those children that takes longer time while they are at the center before they open up little by little, and you may be able to support them. But there are some stages where we say we ourselves, we cannot offer the services, then we have to involve the doctors and specialists around the issue. But in terms of reunifying them with their families, then there are those children that over time, when they stay at the center, they are able to give us a little bit of tips that will lead us to their families. But we would also trace the person that referred these kids, the child to our service. So for example, if it's police or Good Samaritan, then we will start to allocate where was this child found, and we'll start to trace around the area this child was found. And we have had cases like that where we went back where they were located at first, and we used schools, we used the local leaders, and we were able to trace their families. But the challenge is it will take time, and it may be beyond our capacity sometimes.
Yeah, and I think you make a really valid point, Mary, and both of your presentations, Sander's and yours, really points to the need to have an individualized approach, right? And that's why we're talking about the importance of case management and actually looking at each child as an individual, because it's not meant to be a one-size-fits-all approach. And so really understanding and assessing what their needs are, and then tailoring the support and the services and the care plans accordingly. So the next question then, Mary, maybe you can speak to that a little bit as well, that came from the audience, is what do trauma-focused services look like in a street situation? And I think, again, we're speaking to case management here.
Yeah, so in the street situation, first of all, we are looking into first making it look safer and also provide that supportive system. So that's why we have some areas like dropping center, where from this chaotic and everything that is happening on the street, we have a dropping center where there's structured activity and it's safe. There's someone that can talk and listen to the child. So providing that safe space to the children, but also the relationship, having a street worker who goes on the street regularly and who really cares about the children, and this community champion who support these children. I think that has been very helpful. For the youth, again, how we do it, we reintegrate them with the communities, even when they're still, for example, when they are going to placement, then they go somewhere where they meet with other people and they get to interact with a different group of people. So they have that supportive system that is around them. So it's looking at that. So, but when going deeper to the more needs or traumatic experiences, then we need to be really careful about how we handle it. So some children then who are willing, we take them to the shelter, and there it's where we can really help them process some of those experiences that are much deeper. But yeah, so generally that is what we are doing currently. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, Mary. Thank you. Sander, some more questions coming your way about mobile school. So I think you actually addressed this. One of them is, can the street schools be adjusted to suit our local school system? And then, does the mobile school have a standard life skills manual?
Mm-hmm. We do have a manual with an explanation on all of the different games we have. We provide this to our partner, but as I mentioned as well, the Street Smart Play platform is kind of an online website where partners can still share their best practices, their educational materials. It allows us as well to really constantly develop new tools, and all the manuals are available there for free as well. So we really invite everyone to have there an exchange of best practices of the mobile school. So all of these manuals are available over there as well on life skills. And if we talk about the adaptation of the mobile school in our trainings, we always encourage, of course, we have our basic package with topics and panels we saw that work over the years, but we always invite our partners to go in a kind of co-creation process together with us and to adapt the mobile school to their local needs, to be creative, to think about topics and issues that concerns the children, and create some materials themselves, which they can then use on the mobile school. Our mobile school get translated as well to local languages. We provide these mobile schools, but we see that within the reality of our partner organizations, it always gets adapted to the local context. And you see that this tool always finds its way around, no matter what the specific situation is of the specific reality or target group of the local organization. So this is mostly how it works.
Okay, thank you, Sander. So we still have a few minutes left, and I think we still have time for a few more questions. One of the questions that we often get asked is, if the street environment is so harsh and children are being abused, by people on the streets, taking advantage of them, being exploited, being harassed, there's a lot of stigma towards them. Why isn't it easy for us to remove children from the streets? I mean, surely if the street environment is so horrible and harsh, we should be able to get them off the minute that we make contact with them. So Mary, maybe if you can say a little bit about that, and then Sander, you can also share your experience since you've worked in a number of settings. Why does this take long?
So it's also the question that we keep asking ourselves, but when we go back into the experiences that they've gone through from their families, for example, first of all, we have to ask ourselves why first they came to the streets. So you find some of the abuse and the experiences that they go through their families from their parents. There's someone that they expected could really love and care about them. There's someone that they trusted betrayed them, either by abusing them. So they really find it's better I stay here on the street. So we really try our best, but sometimes the families themselves. So if you listen to the other webinar about the family work, so there's some complex needs again with the families. You find some families with mental illness or families where there's drug abuse. So the parents are completely neglectful. So the child doesn't can't differentiate between street life and being at home. So there are some complex needs to some of the families, and the children really find being on the street, first of all, having just other children on the street as their friends, having centers or having someone who is checking after them, then they really find that it's much helpful than being there, than being into their family. So wherever or whoever asks these questions, I want them to leave today asking themselves, first of all, why did this child come here and why are they choosing to be here? Then they'll be able to figure out what has been happening with these children then.
Yeah, and I think, you really point to the importance of interventions with families to prevent the separation from happening in the first place, because that's really where it all starts. And if there's so much dysfunction and abuse and neglect in families, of course you're going to run away. In fact, that is a good strategy, because it's a survival instinct, and it ensures that you won't get killed, the next time your father tries to beat you up or something. So I think that really, really points to the importance of working with families and family strengthening interventions. But Sander, in your experience, I'm not sure if you have been asked a question. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and I totally would agree with the points that were raised by Mary. But it's the same from our experience. There's an absolute lack of trust in adults, in authority from these kids. They have been through so many past traumas, and that they deliberately choose the streets over life in their families. So what happens when we go to the streets as well? You see that they have no trust at all in adults, in the care system, in the police, because of all these past traumas they went through. And this process of reinstating that trust, it takes time, and therefore it's so important for street workers to go out on the streets, to identify the kids there, talking to them, assess their situation, and then from there you can start building and assess the individual needs of each child. But it's a long process, and therefore we came up with this mobile school idea as well, because it's a tool that allows children to have information, to also have a basic kind of education, and to reinstate that self-esteem and build that trust again with trustworthy adults in their life. And then the bridge between street life and going to being reintegrated again with their families, or going into a formal education system, it can be bridged easier if you already start working from the very early stages on these issues.
Brilliant. Unfortunately, we're only down to our last 3 minutes, and we've still got questions coming in from the audience. But I think this one especially, if I can ask both of you to speak to it, starting with Mary. Someone from the audience has said, the street work approach is being perceived as an approach that offers relief and resilience to children in the street. The concept is misinterpreted, as our societies believe that with this approach, we are simply making the street more comfortable and conducive for children, whereby they will never want to leave the streets. How would you address such comments, especially when it comes from government officials who believe roundups and using force is the way forward? So Mary, if we can hear your thoughts. And
my thoughts then will be, again, I'll go back to the same question that I said, maybe we should leave asking ourselves. So first of all, why these children came there on the streets? And if we are not there for them, then who will be there for them? So it's because it's not, as Sander said, it's not about a matter of just meeting them today and taking them back to their families, but it's about building that trust again, trying to understand their needs, trying to resolve the issues that happened to their families that led them to come to the streets. So I would say to these comments is that we really wish the children would be going back home and they wouldn't be there, but they're already there. So something must be done. So, and this something that has to be done, then we have to look at all other needs. So the kids needs to be looked after, they needs to be provided with different services. And this process takes longer time because their trust was already broken from their families, and some complex and other complexity within their families may require longer time.
Thank you. And Sander?
Yeah, I do agree. I would say to these comments as well that in the long term, street work will make our work more sustainable as well. Because if there's no street work, if you say like we're just going to get the kids and we put them back into their families or we put them in a care institution, there is a high chance that they will drop out again because they are not well prepared for that reintegration process. So that's why with the mobile school as well, we try to really assess that situation, work on these foundations of self-esteem, at the same time work with the families as well. But it's not just a quick solution that you can take. From our experience of, well, if you take a child from the streets, you put him into formal education, put him back with the family, within a couple of weeks, if the situation is not resolved, the child will be back on the streets. And then we can ask ourselves the questions like, is this really a sustainable solution? And then we say, like, we prefer to work with these kids for a longer period of time on the street. But once then the reintegration happens, it's way more sustainable than just what we have seen in many countries, like cleaning the streets and get a quick fix for the problem. But then in a couple of months, you're witnessing the same kids back on the street. So that is definitely not a sustainable solution. So we prefer to put more resources and more time into that foundational work, which is street work, and why it's so fundamental. But then the results on the long term will be way better. So it's a process, but it's definitely worth a journey in our opinion.
Well, I couldn't have said it better than Mary and Sander. So, and unfortunately, we have run out of time, but that was an extremely interesting webinar. Thank you so much, Mary and Sander, for your wisdom and your insights. I think we have a lot of food for thought to take away with us. And thank you all very much as well for joining us today. We hope you will sign up. We have one more session coming up on care reform this afternoon. And then we have 4 webinars tomorrow as well. So we look forward to seeing you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.